The Rivian is a truck that you should not be afraid to drive on trails, muddy environments, or all different kinds of terrains. But there is something that it is missing, and I want to add that today. So the Rivian has been a blast so far. I do have the road tires currently on it, but I am working on getting a set of all terrains. And as soon as we can do that, you bet I'm gonna be taking that thing out on some trails in Colorado and everything. But today I want to kind of talk about mud flaps, because really there aren't any on that truck. And it's something it really could use, especially in the front, to prevent any kind of rock chips along those bottom panels right there. RallyArmor has made those for the Rivian now. So I'm super excited that we get to check these out and actually put them on the truck. Now, these are a polyurethane based. They're super rugged, super everything. I'm very excited to have something like this on the truck. And I think it'll look really good, especially once we get these road tires off and the all-terrains put on. I think that'll look even better. But let's go ahead and get this unboxed, install, and check them out. So in the box, you get setting the standard in mud flaps. And in here, you get your receipt and you get your actual mud flaps. Now there's gonna be 2 fronts, 2 rear, left and right, as well as your little bag of tools right there and instructions. So before we start, I actually wanna talk about the gear that is included. There are 2 brackets. These are going to be for the rear of the vehicle, so you don't have to worry about those in the front. There's also some spacers, some washers, some lock nuts, and some clips. Now, one thing originally I wasn't sure they would need, but they are actually including these, are 2 10 mil bolts. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get there, but for the rear, there's been different bolts that people have had on their production trucks. And if you need something longer, they include these. So that's great. So as you can see here, the easiest way to do this is to angle the wheel so you have a lot more room, because we're gonna need to be accessing fasteners in this general region. So for each front, there are 5 fasteners you will have to remove. One is actually missing. It's supposed to be right there. The other is right there, one right there, one right there. And those 4 are actually Torx. And then there's that little push fastener right in there. Now, those 5 will have to be removed. Now that one, not even being installed or fallen off, that might pose a problem for me. We'll figure that out later, but at least we can install these for now. But I'm gonna go ahead and clean this whole area up because it's like really dark and grimy in there. So for these 4 fasteners, I'm actually going to be using a T20 Torx. If you have something with a shorter handle, that'll actually work out a little better because the wheel only turns so far, but I think this one will actually work for me. So we're just gonna go ahead and remove that one, and this one I don't even have, so I'll have to contact service about that one. And then this down here, we'll just pop that right out. They are labeled, but you want the logo facing the rear of the truck. So we're gonna flip it around like this. And it does still have the same cutout right here, which matches the cutout on the trim of the Rivian for aero that they put there. So it's nice that they kept that, because there's obviously a reason Rivian did that. Now I know some people want this covered. I don't know, comment down below if having a cover here is something that you would prefer, or maybe even if you would prefer if these were solid instead of having the hole. But my attitude is they put that here for a reason, probably for any air to kind of help with aerodynamics. So I would much rather have it. And then we just go ahead and start putting all the fasteners back in. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put them all in loosely. You don't want them too tight to start, because you want to make sure that the mud flap bottom, this right here, is parallel to the floor. So you don't want it like super crooked one way or another. You want it parallel to the ground. So we'll go ahead and start putting some of these fasteners in so we can kind of get it held up a little bit. And then just be careful that you don't over torque these Torx screws as well. That's actually just as bad as not putting them in at all. Okay, so I kind of have them there a little bit. Now I'm gonna go ahead and step back and get some weird funky angles down low to make sure that this is about as parallel to the ground as we can go ahead and get it. Make sure everything looks good. This cutout actually looks like perfect spot. And then that will hook in there. I think that's actually really good right there. Nice. And you can have it stick out a little bit further if you want. I'm actually gonna push mine in as far as I can. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get these tightened up. And again, this side's gonna look a little weird. And you'll notice that I only have 4 Torx because there was one missing. The one I was missing was actually right here, but I went ahead and moved the one from here over here. And then I'll have to contact service to get this other one. And then we'll go ahead and reinsert this fastener right down here where it originally came from. And yeah, you just push that in. Definitely starting to look more like a truck. So there's kind of what it looks like. Let me know what you guys think. We'll have to take it outside and get some good shots when it stops raining. You can see how well it kind of like conforms to all this. I chose the dark gray logo. I really like that. You can see it does stick out a little bit, which will help provide a little bit more coverage, especially when we get the all-terrains on, to make sure that anything coming off of those tires hits this and falls or gets flung out this other way and doesn't get flung out and start scratching the vehicle, which would be a huge bummer. So now that the front's done, let's go ahead and jump to the rear. Okay, for the back, I think it will be much easier all the way raised up to be able to access these bolts right here, as well as the ones underneath right there. So since the rear only really has these 2 bolts right here on this back side, what you're gonna end up wanting to do is swing under here, and on this first bolt right here, which this is the bolt that people have said and have received different size bolts. Some too short, some the correct length like mine. And we weren't able to ensure it was because I do have the $1,700 carbon reinforced underbody on mine and some of the others didn't, but it didn't seem like that was the common denominator. It probably is just whatever Rivian could actually get at the time. Yes, they are still a fairly small company that is, like everybody else in the world, is having part shortages right now. Whatever bolt you have right here does not fit, is not long enough for some reason, you can go ahead and use one of the 10 mil bolts that they give you. Otherwise, like mine are long enough, they're okay, you won't need the 10 mil bolts, but at least they give you that in case you do need it. And the bracket will actually go something like this. And so you'll use a spacer and everything, and then that will put screws on this side that you can then use a washer and lock nut with to be able to make sure that mud flap stays in place as best as possible. Now some people have said that's a 10 mil bolt. Some people have had a short Torx. I have a long Torx, but it is a T27. So as you can see how long mine is. If you have one this size, you can just reuse this, but if you have a shorter one, you will want to go ahead and use the included 10 mil. We're gonna go ahead and put our OEM bolt through the closest hole per the instructions. Then we're gonna go ahead and take our spacer, put that on. That's because this spot right here is indented and you need to make it flush. Then we're gonna just basically reverse and just screw this back in. Perfect. And now we have this stud on the inside of the wheel well for those mud flaps to attach to. So now that we have that bottom stud put in, we'll work our way up just a little bit. And then we have these 2 Torx T20 screws to undo. And this is why I think lifting the truck to its uppermost position worked out really well. That way we can help get into all these without too much interference from the wheel. Once again, you will want the RallyArmor logo facing back. So we're gonna do this because this is the driver side rear. And you can see we have our little stud that we put on here. And then we'll have these 2 right here. So we can go ahead and hook that on our stud right there. And we can take our 2 OEM Torx and start screwing those right back in, and not screwing them in very tight to start, so that way we can reposition to make sure that the bottom of this is parallel with the floor. And then for this stud right here, we're gonna go ahead and take the little black plastic washer that was included, as well as a lock nut, and we're gonna go ahead and put the washer on. And then we're going to put the nut on and just tighten that down. Okay, and then once we have that done, we're gonna kind of go into this little corner right here. And then we have these little clips. And as you can see in the middle, angling in, which will grab not only the mud flap, but also the wheel well in there. So we're gonna try to take it, and it's hard to film because it's like really in there. We're gonna have to open it a little bit, get it around the mud flap, as well as the plastic liner in there, and then push it down as hard as we can, and that will really help hold this part in, because otherwise you can see it kind of pops out a bit. That'll really, really, really help hold that in. And then you're just gonna wanna push it really hard to really get it down all the way so it's grabbing both the fender wheel well area as well as the mud flap. So now you can see what the rear looks like. Again, the truck is all the way lifted, so it might look a little obnoxious because of that wheel gap. But those mud flaps look really, really good. So I've been rocking the Under Armour mud flaps for the Rivian R1T for a little while now, almost like a week and a half. Originally I just put them on the left side, loved them so much, we put them on the right side too, just so we can make sure we get the best look and protection possible. And you can see all that dirt and everything that it has prevented from being kicked up at the body. So it's clearly doing its job, and same thing with the back. All this that's on there, it's prevented from getting up all over this and everything else. So definitely can give it a big thumbs up. So overall, install was super easy. I'm really liking the mud flaps. Let me know down below what you think about them. If you have a Rivian R1T, or maybe you're one of the lucky few with an R1S, would you be interested in putting these mud flaps on yours? I'm really happy. I really like the look of it too. Makes it look a little bit more rugged, truck-like. So it really does multiple things. It's functional and a visual perk. And we'll go ahead and link them down in the description below if you would like to pick up a set for yourself. But that's basically it for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As always, huge thanks to our channel sponsor, Abstract Ocean. If you're looking to accessorize your model SX3 or Y, and now the Rivian, definitely check them out. I'll link it down below, and using code Tesla Inventory will get you 15% off of your first purchase. Lots of really fun, useful accessories to really create your car your own, as well as keep it protected. But that's basically it for this one. Definitely a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Go and click here to subscribe here for some other ones, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.